Hello and welcome to the Brand Storytelling live streams for August 5th, 2020. I'm Drew Parkhill. Thanks for being with us. These live streams air every Wednesday, and our mission is to deliver the most timely and relevant information for our community of brands and their storytelling partners. These shows are designed for you, so please let us know how we can best serve the community by suggesting future topics and guests that would help you now as well as into the future. You can drop me a line. I'm Drew at BrandStorytelling.tv. Excited to welcome my good friend Ty Braswell, who'll be hosting this session. Ty, go ahead and introduce the rest of the group.
How are you? How's
good.
Everyone doing today? First up, I'd like to introduce Matt Wassiloff, who is founder and CEO of Blockboard. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Ty. Thank you. Great to be here.
And I'd also like to introduce, Matt and I know each other from many different events and a few cocktails over some of these events. But I had the great pleasure of in our prep meeting to meet Jennifer. And please say hello to Jennifer, who is creator and also the host and talent and many other things we're going to learn about with this amazing series at Home with Jennifer.
Hi, nice to virtually meet everybody. I wish I could see faces.
Indeed. So I'm pretty doggone excited about this panel today. I've had some great inspiration hearing the insights from the panelists in the prep meeting that we always have a few days before this. What I'd like to do is kind of get the ball rolling and ask our panelists to give us why are they passionate about storytelling. And Matt or Jennifer, who would like to start?
You want me to start, Jen?
Sure, Matt. You go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
I get very excited about video programming, storytelling. I've been for 30 years in the TV meets digital video industry and had the fortune of working with some of the greatest storytellers and programs, throughout the history, really. I've worked at Warner Brothers on Friends and ER and Rosie O'Donnell. I worked at CBS and launched Survivor. And I've had the great fortune of working with Jennifer Pate, who everyone will meet now, on a series that was a Webby Award-winning series, Jen and Barb Mom Life. So I feel very fortunate. That's the stuff that gets me most excited, is telling great stories and leveraging sight, sound, and motion, which is what video represents. And no better time than right now when everybody is leaning in and streaming this content. So that's what gets me excited.
And for me, I mean, from the storyteller's perspective, there's really three things that are really important to me. One is information, two is entertainment, and three is helping people know that they're not alone. And that's what I've done before with Mom Life. As Matt mentioned, we have a long history together, and we did over 120 episodes with 48 brands over 5 seasons. And what I think really resonated, and what we're hoping will resonate again, is exactly what I'm saying. People knowing that they're not alone. We're all going through such similar things. And if you have somebody who kind of makes you laugh along with it, who shares a story with you, but also gives you information, that's what I'm passionate about. That's sort of what gets me up in the morning. And that is what we are, and that's what we're doing.
So I always find that when you start talking to folks that are very passionate about storytelling, somewhere in their life, there was one person or a handful of folks that were inspiration, that they saw that sort of their North Star, that they wanted to see more storytelling like that person who's created the story, or really wanted to be as good as them or aspire to that. Matt, tell us, was there anyone in your, journeys that you had this moment that you did that inspired you to be a storyteller?
Absolutely. I remember 20 years ago, I worked at the CBS TV network, and I had the fortune of running around the country with Mark Burnett. He, at the time, was the executive producer of Survivor. And he had this novel idea of creating reality programming. And I can't forget all the faces that we came up against who looked at Mark Burnett and said, how in the world is this show going to work when you're going to tape it and then put it on broadcast as a taped show, not live? There's no way it's going to work. And I watched him repeatedly tell our buyers across the country, we're going to tell stories. We're going to get into personalities. We're going to show these people and really, give you something. You're going to get caught up in the people that we're going to profile on this show. And lo and behold, 20 years later, this show is still in first run. So that to me was a moment in time where I realized the power of storytelling. And I knew watching Mark work and being a part of this industry and the growth of this industry was why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Awesome. Well, we had just had someone join us, and that would be Ken Krasnow, who's Vice President of Omni-Channel Marketing at Henkel. Ken, how are you doing today?
I apologize for my tardiness. I think as some people know, we have had a storm here on the East Coast, and internet is spotty, but I've been able to get to a spot that has it, and I should be good to go.
Well, we're glad that you could make it and hope that everyone's safe in your family and all around us. But we want to jump right in and ask you the question that our other panelists have answered, which is, what makes you passionate about storytelling? Where does your passion come from for storytelling?
Where does that come from? That's a good question. I don't think any of us would be sitting here today if we weren't passionate about storytelling, right? Because at the heart of it, all marketers are storytellers. You know, I was a storyteller my entire life. I remember telling stories to my family when I was 4 or 5 years old and really honing my craft at a very early age and receiving all the kind of positive feedback from that. And that kind of pushed me, I think, in this direction. I think storytelling is so important because it's the way that we convey information. It's the way that we convey feeling. It's the way that we connect with people. And I am a relationship guy. In fact, I think marketing today, it's definitely about ideas, but we used to say we're in the idea business. And I would say, I think now we're in the relationship business. I mean, good ideas fuel relationships. But today, it's really about collecting these relationships. There's so many good brands out there, and loyalty is waning. So how do we create recursive relationships? And I think that's through storytelling, really effective storytelling, not screaming at somebody and beating our chests and telling them how great we are as a brand, but understanding them deeply and crafting a story where the consumer is the hero. And we're the mentor or we're the friend as the brand that will help them complete their hero's journey. And I think it's a new age for marketing and for storytellers. I think we're going to be kind of released from any shackles that we've had to tell really creative, fun, engaging stories.
And with that, I want to jump back over with Jennifer and go to our second question I asked Matt, which is who, and Ken, you're going to get the opportunity to share this after Jennifer. Jennifer, who inspired you to be a storyteller?
Well, I can tell you I can't say just one. I'll say a few, and it's probably going to be a really eclectic mix, but you'll get an idea. One is Dolly Parton. And I know that may seem sort of random coming from me, but here's why I've always loved her and I love her stories. She takes a real story, real pain, real life, which if you're a human being, you're going to experience. She shares the story, she makes it relatable, and then she has positivity to it. And I love that. I just have always loved the way she shares a story, makes it so human, makes it connected, makes you feel, but somehow uplifts you. And then I love Guy Raz, who is the host of How I Built This on the podcast of NPR. I'm sort of fascinated by people who've started companies and businesses, and I love that it's not just about their business, it's about their life. You get to find out such interesting things. I love taking a deep dive into the personal. And I also think, I would say the current Howard Stern, as far as how he interviews people, I love the way that he gets people to really share. So I know I've just gone from Dolly Parton to Howard Stern, but all of those, and Guy Raz included, there's something very human, the human condition. I mean, I won't get too heady, but anyone who's read any Joseph Campbell, there's this philosophy is sort of, you know, the joys through the sorrows of life. And as a human being, nobody escapes the sorrows, but finding the joy is the beautiful thing. And it's like, for me, what I strive to do personally and professionally.
Great answer. Ken, follow that one, okay? Even though we give you points for being, you know, finding broadband during a hurricane. So,
Right.
Okay. All right.
but who inspired you, Ken?
I would say I think it's summer here. It's a beautiful sunny day. We're out of the storm, and I think of Bruce Brown. Not to terribly date myself, but the creator of Endless Summer. If you've seen the surf movie Endless Summer 2, Step into Liquid, that he did with his brother Dana Brown, I think he's an incredible storyteller. First of all, he picks a subject that he is enormously in love with. And when you view this movie, and if you haven't seen it in a while, you can go watch it on YouTube. It's free, Endless Summer. It's a story about two surfers who basically live a year in the summer by traveling around the world and surfing in very exotic places. And what he does is he sets the context, and he makes you taste the salt air through his beautiful imagery. And it's images that you might have experienced, but you haven't seen on the screen very often. The way he plays with light, it feels as if he's in your head, and you're kind of squinting your eyes on a sunny day, seeing the ocean in a certain way that you know you've seen it, but maybe you wouldn't think that anybody else saw it that way. So he's a master at visually setting the context. And then once he's set context, he then pulls a thread from the world that he's talking about, and that becomes the theme, you know, of his story. And he goes very, very deep. He's set the universe for you. He pulls out a theme. He goes deep within that theme. And once you're there, you get to meet the heroes. You get to meet the villains. In this case, the villain is fear. It's fear of the waves, of Mother Nature, respect for them. It's fear of sharks, those types of things. And there's always a hero's journey. And for each one of his characters, it's a different journey, but you can relate to them all. And by the middle of the movie, you're really not watching a movie. You're in the movie, and you feel like you are the protagonist. And I think that's an incredible skill to be able to do, to tell a story in a way that makes people feel that they're living it.
And now we're here today as we've reminisced about what has influenced us and how we feel about storytelling, with a time in history that is challenging all of us, tremendous amount of challenges that people are facing, that we all are wondering what's going to happen next, the pandemic. But in spite of that, storytelling prevails. And the three of you have accepted the challenge of how you're going to do original production in a pandemic. So Jennifer, set this up for us. Tell us about the show that the three of you and your respective teams have come together to create.
Well, we're calling this new project At Home with Jennifer, and it's really about what we're going through right now. In the pandemic, we are all sharing in so many things. We're all home all of the time. I mean, I'm looking around, we're all working from home. I'm sure anybody watching this is at home. I'm sure anyone who has children, I can hear mine slamming doors downstairs. I know that they're going to be home for school, which is going to be a nightmare. Everybody's financially, emotionally, we're going through so much. I mean, just today in the New York Times, there was an article about the stress that everybody's under and how difficult it is. And so it's really important to talk to people, once again, to tell them that they're not alone. And Matt and I have worked together for a long time. He was the CEO of BBE, who did the sales and distribution for Mom Life. And we're working with Ken now and Henkel for an exciting new project, creating content around these subjects. And so we're just, we started with one of them, and I don't know, is this a good time to maybe show the little clips because we're discussing it, or should I
want to see the clip. Let's do it.
Okay, good. Okay, so let me set this up for a second. So one of the subjects we're talking about is chores, right? We're all home more than ever before. And once again, I don't know who is watching, but if you're a parent and your kids are home all of the time, the messes, everything that's going on is overwhelming. So we wanted to address how we deal with sort of chores now that everybody's home. And we had a challenge in doing this because production, getting, in the pandemic, shooting safe, having social distancing, we had a major challenge on how to present this. And so my production team and I came up with what I think is a very creative way to have guests and have reality footage while keeping under the guidelines that are so strict today. So I am just going to share my screen for a short time. I'm going to take you through a little clip. This is not a whole episode, but this is about chores with your family while everybody's home.
What that means is towels everywhere, dishes everywhere, messes everywhere, food everywhere, and I'm really getting sick of it.
When I am left alone in the kitchen after dinner cleaning up the dinner that I have just cooked by myself, that's when the rage flares.
It's like steam comes out of my head, and I don't want to be annoyed. I don't want to be annoyed. I want people to help, and I want them to, whistle with me while they're doing it. I mean,
little spring in the step. My mom always says, many hands make light work. So it supports if we're all doing it together, it feels like nothing. And then there's camaraderie and support.
So that's just a little taste of what we're doing right now with Henkel.
So how did this all come to be? How did three passionate storytellers all find this path? And for you, Ken, how did you sell it in to your colleagues that you were going to bring your company in to participate? Tell us about that.
He's on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, off
There you
mute.
go.
Off mute. Sorry about that. Great question. Henkel is a 143-year-old company, right? Big legacy company, $20 billion. They've been doing a lot of things right for a lot of years. One thing I think I'm really lucky about is that although they're an older legacy company, they're very agile and they're innovative. And they're open to new ideas and they're open to changing. However, you still need to present a fact-based argument. And what I needed to do, and what I was able to do, was talk to them about kind of the modern approach to marketing, which is taking the traditional art and science of marketing, but looking at it through a new lens. And from a science perspective, we're not here to talk about that. We all know that's about data and analytics and technology and all of that. But from an art perspective, it is different. In a world where consumers are blocking advertisements through technology, or they're signing up for subscription services without ads, or they have banner blindness, you know, I had to bring that story to life, that our media impressions weren't going to work as hard for us today as they had done in the past. And today it's about inbound marketing more than outbound marketing. It doesn't mean there isn't a role for TV commercials, there is, but we can't just live there. And I talked about consumer consumption behavior with regards to entertaining content and video in particular. And we talked about how a solid content marketing strategy is actually more efficient than anything else you can do, because it feeds the whole marketing mix. Everything from, you know, SEO to, you know, SEM, SEO, social, retail.com pages, your website, everything, programmatic, it feeds everything. And it enables you to have a consistent yet nuanced story from media to shelf. And this fact-based story, and I'm not really giving you any of the facts, more of the highlights, was impressive enough that they gave me a little bit of money to test this. And we did test it with a 9-episode video series for our Got to Be brand called Turning the Tables, which followed a young woman as she was trying to break into the competitive DJ world of electronic dance music. And we ran this last year, and it was tremendously successful. So on the heels of that, I got a little bit more leash. And that led to some other things, which ultimately has led us to our work with Jen, which is our biggest endeavor to date. And it's part of our CRM program, which we're launching in the fall. And, you know, we couldn't be more thrilled.
Matt, how'd you package all this?
With the utmost delicacy, and there was no shortage of challenges. I've been in the digital video original production business for 15 years, as Jen said, largely with her and Jen and Barb Mom Life. And I've realized just about every package, every deal has hair on it. It's not easy. But I think the world is now starting to turn and become more receptive to this new emerging model. You know, and I found in this work, you know, Ken brought up the word relationship. I think it's all about relationship. And I've been, you know, talking with Ken and his team now for a good long while. And as Ken said, it was an evolution at his company, but we spent time together at Sundance and in the follow-up. And so things started to come together. You know, I'm also, you know, have some wind at our back now with streaming is booming. People are looking for content. So, you know, I'm seeing the streaming growth really helping our cause. And then there's just a tremendous track record with Jen Pate and all the work she's done. So we were able to put this together on the basis of those relationships.
Jennifer, these stories are not just important for the business that you have, but it's important to you personally and helping the audience that you're reaching out to that has been with you in your previous programming. But now it's a different set of rules and a different landscape with the pandemic. Talk about how you feel the responsibility in the way you're telling these stories. And maybe there's an element there to get a sense of humor so we all can have a little laugh as we face these challenges. Talk to us about that.
Well, you're absolutely right. The sense of humor is really important. And while the pandemic has obviously created even a more difficult sort of climate we're all living on in the world, it really hasn't changed. And that here's one thing I know, and not that, and I actually have had viewership of men. In Jen and Barb Mom Life, we had a lot of men who watched. But one thing I know about women is, and I'm very thankful I am one. No offense, guys, but we share and how we get through things. And I know this from my girlfriend today who called me because her 13-year-old son, she found vapes, and we had a whole conversation about that, to another friend whose kid got into Harvard and now he can't go because school isn't happening. So how we talk as women around a table for coffee or a glass of wine is we share and then we make each other laugh. That is our therapy. It is so important. And what I want to do is, not everybody has their group, their coffee group, their wine group. I like to expand that. And not only that, even if you've got your couple group of girlfriends, not everybody can solve the problems. I bring in experts and ideas and answers. So it's like, it's an extra hug around people with what they're going through. And I mean, I can't remember the statistics. I'm going to refer to that New York Times article I read again today, which was about, this sort of pandemic fatigue. And there were numbers about, serious things, anxiety, depression, abuse, very serious things. And whether or not people are experiencing that to that level, everybody has a little bit of this pandemic fatigue. So that girlfriend conversation, that somebody who, when somebody tells you something and somehow you can make them laugh, that it's like, that's your therapy. That's so important. So it's more important now than ever, given what we're going through. But nothing has changed in my approach as how I've always done. And a key to it too is that I share. I won the Webby for Best Host. And I think my interviewing skills are good, let's say, I think the reason why I had the accolades that I had is because I share. A lot of people who interview, they just ask you questions about you. They don't then say, oh my God, let me tell you, I got in a fight with my husband last night because he wouldn't turn off the freaking TV and I wanted to go to sleep. It's like, once you say, I'm a person too, so that sharing is so key. And once again, people just have to know that they're not alone and they need information. And I'm sort of that conduit of both of that, the sort of girlfriend and information.
Got a question for you, Ken. It was hard enough for us producers of storytelling to connect with sponsors and work our way through the process so that everyone felt comfortable and being able, in a playing field of being creative in life. The pandemic makes it just so many things unknown. Are you going to shoot something that nuance would have not mattered during pre-pandemic times, but because it's seen in that light and everyone is wound up pretty tight for all the right reasons of this pandemic, that we're all challenged and we've no friends and loved ones that have been affected by it. We talked about a little bit of this on the pre-call, but Ken, how did you, and again, not with giving away any corporate secrets and any of that, but just help us out, because all of us that want to do this passionate, driven, honest conversation and bring the brands along so that they can also tell their, brand persona, their narrative. But how did you, for this project, it'd just been a lot easier if they would have skipped and waited till the pandemic was over before they would take any risk for many reasons. How did you help them have that courage to be creative?
That's a great question. And I think this is difficult under any times because we have 5 participating brands and we've got one initiative here. And so we've got a number of masters to serve here. And I think, number one, it's always about finding that common ground that, all brands can feel comfortable and they can feel that the work that we're doing is going to reinforce and amplify their core position. But to answer your question more specifically, I think, I was able to share data with them with regards to what our peers are doing from a corporate perspective and other major corporations do during downturns. And what they do is they put their foot on the gas. They don't let up, but they accelerate marketing in different ways. And what they look to do is really be there for people. And they look to build brand equity, drive awareness, more top funnel metrics. And that's exactly what this is all about. It's all about being there, as Jen said, as a friend for people and sharing very useful, insightful, educational, entertaining information that can really help people feel they're A, not alone, and B, give them some tips. Even as I'm watching the videos, and I've seen them several times, I'll pick something up and I'll be like, oh gosh, I'll tell my wife, say, you know what, this is something we should try, because it's going to help us sleep better, or whatever the idea is. And they got it. Our brand's got that. But once again, it is a data-driven story when you're on the client side. So it's not just about talking about these things. It's about bringing the evidence forth. Kantar, Nielsen, Gartner. These are companies that have a treasure trove of data that I leveraged, particularly Gartner, to tell the story of what leading marketers do in a downturn.
So none of us got a playbook when the pandemic happened. We weren't able to go take a course. There was nothing, there was not a memo, there was not a position paper. None of us had that. And getting through this process of not only packaging it, finding everything that would be all the different pieces of the puzzle, working with you, Ken, for your sponsorship, Jennifer, you figuring it out, Matt figuring out how the package works. Let us share with the viewers at least 3 things that you didn't know about producing during a pandemic that you now know, that you find that knowledge would be valuable to the folks that are watching this.
Well, can I take that one? Because
Please.
I just produced all of this content for Angle, and social distancing on set. We shot some really great stuff that we couldn't use and had to rework it because the sensitivity to social distancing. Obviously, you can only have X amount of people, masks, all of the protocol, but social distancing. And one thing we really figured out that I'm so excited, and I hope other people are really paying attention to this, is through trial and error, we created this style, and you saw it with kind of the bubbles and the graphics, so that if I wanted to interview, let's say there's somebody, I've interviewed everybody from Gloria Steinem to Rick Fox. I've interviewed the gamut, but let's just say I wanted to interview somebody who was in Los Angeles right now. I could send one camera to them safely, interview them in my new style of editing. I can create, as opposed to just a Zoom square box, these graphics and movement. And so I would say that really addressing social distancing and safety on set was really the biggest learning that I had with these few. And I feel really excited because I've got my team and we are ready to go, and we've really solved that problem. That's one. 2 is really focusing on what people are going through right now. As much as there's, other things we want to talk about in life, everybody is just trying to get through their day right now. So topics have to be really timely. This isn't more kind of overarching general ideas. I think really the specificity, specific nature of things that we're going through are really important. And I think those are really the 2 for me that have been the big eye-openers of this production.
Yeah, I would say for me, I think not being on set was really challenging. And, because typically we're on set and we're watching how the storyboard comes to life, frame by frame, with lots of, input through the chain of command on a set. And that could not happen here. We had to just completely trust. And I think, it was super helpful to be even more granular in pre-production with what our expectations were than maybe we would have been in the past. So that was kind of number 1, is the level of granularity that you need for pre-production to make sure casting, wardrobe, lighting, social distancing protocols. It's a myriad of things really need to be thought of when the client can't be there. Number 2 was, I think what we did was, what Jen did was she mixed camera quality. So she shot this in very, very high def primarily cameras, really high quality, enormously expensive equipment. But we edited in footage from iPhones and other devices. And that was interesting to me. It added a texture, it added a humanity, a level of familiarity to it, a grittiness that I thought was really surprising and fun to kind of mix the camera quality a little bit. Was really neat. And that was a learning from a production standpoint. And then I guess the can-do spirit of Jen and her team. You know, when we ran into obstacles, I remember one time we ran into an obstacle and we didn't have a solution, but Jen was like, there's a solution. We just don't know it yet. And I was like, I felt immediately as the client so much calmer, you know, there's a solution, we'll get there. And that speaks to years and years of experience and just the optimism of, hey, we'll find it and we'll work it out. And so I think maybe when you're interviewing for, you know, for talent, you know, it's good to ask, like, how do you handle problems? What's your attitude, you know, towards situations like that? What's the worst kind of thing you've run across? How did you handle it? How much did it cost the client? Oh, it didn't cost them a penny more. You're hired.
Matt, anything?
Yeah. I mean, I maybe it's just a little bit of a different way of saying a lot of the same themes, but you know, first and foremost, and Ken said it, experience. You know, I get excited and always been excited about working with Jen because she has years of experience working with big brands on great productions, and so that experience is what helped us migrate and navigate these tough waters that we're dealing with here in this pandemic. We've obviously never been through this before, but we've been through so many wars. So we have the scars, and Jen has been amazing through all of that. And I knew we can persevere through this, as Ken just said very eloquently. Ken also said it, and I'm going to reemphasize: positive. You know, this is as tough as it gets, what we're going through. And not only Jen's positive spirit, but the messaging and the content that we're putting forth is incredibly positive. And that's exactly what's needed right now in the market in general, and certainly online. I mean, we just saw the leaders of the tech world have to stand in front of Congress for the very opposite reason. So we need to find positive messaging to get this country through what's an incredibly tough time. And I think this is a big step in that direction. And then lastly, and this has been my key, and I'll stand by it, and I believe it will carry us, we're nimble. Right now, we're competing versus Jeffrey Katzenberg and Quibi and some of these very large streaming providers who are, you know, creating content in a bubble and doing things on a large scale, creating big productions. I don't necessarily think they're doing what Jen just did, sitting at the table across from a big brand to understand what their needs are. We're nimble. We're flexible, we move on the fly, and we meet the objectives of our customers. And that's what I believe is a big difference maker and very much needed during this pandemic.
I'm going to segue to the audience because we've got a good question from out there in the audience live. Mark Patterson asked this question. So when in pitching series to brands, what role are the agencies playing? And are discussions more directly with brands, or do you navigate through their agencies? A question that we all ask ourselves and deal with any production. I asked the panel, what do you think of that? What insights can you share with us?
I mean, why don't I tackle this one, since I've been spending time with both. You know, I think we're a nascent industry, even though I personally, and Jen has been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, it's still nascent and it's still early. And so, you know, finding people like Ken Krasno it's not easy. There aren't many of them on either side, on the client or agency side. So I think you have to talk to everybody. And you have to find those people who are receptive and want to take, creative leaps. We call it courage. And when you find and build those relationships, then, there's the opportunity to build. But that's, it's a trying process. It's not easy, but I believe you have to talk to everybody.
And I think as a brand person, I want to meet with the producer. Like, I know Jen and Matt now, and I talk with them directly. Are our agencies involved? For sure they're involved. And I look to them. I want their feedback. I want their guidance. They're partners in all of this, 100%. But I don't believe we need to put up barriers between these partners, right? If Jen and Matt want to talk to Hawkeye, our agency, they can pick up the phone, and I encourage that. Have a conversation, and if you don't need me on the call, all the better. And if I want to talk to Jen and Matt, the agency is totally cool with that. So we're all trying to achieve the same thing. Everybody is important. Everybody plays a key and distinct role. It's not about that. It's just about producing awesome work and having a lot of fun while we do it.
Now we're getting around to the last lap here in our panel. So I want to challenge each one of the panelists to think about brand storytelling and think about the context of where we are in these challenging times of the pandemic. And then come up with, when you start to think about that, what's the one word? Again, we're trying to help for our audience by writing the playbook here. But what's the one word when you think about all the different factors of brand storytelling and the foundation of storytelling, and then layer that in with the current situation of the pandemic, and also the process all of three of you went through for this incredible project. What's one word that kind of speaks to this experience of working on this program? Anybody want to take a shot at that?
I'll take a shot at it. Truth. The truth about what we're feeling and what we're going through. That honesty, the integrity to be able to speak your truth and share the truth. So that's the word. And the way I work with brands, and I've worked with a lot, over 48 brands and 120 episodes of Mom Life, and now working with Henkel, is I take the brand messaging. So I work directly with Ken, for example, and he'll send me the brand messaging. I'll look at that. I'll look at their truth, what they're trying to accomplish, whether, let's say it's safety at home. I will think about, well, what is truth for what people are going to that resonates with that same safety? I'll take that word and I'll look for truth, and I'll think, okay, safety of health right now, right? How are we keeping our families healthy? I mean, with COVID and people going, whether they're going out to the grocery store, to school. So I'll try and marry that messaging and create content that is going to speak to that truth and give answers, solutions, and a little humor, and try and blend the brand messaging with what my viewers needs. But it all really comes through that lens of truth and honesty.
Yeah, I would echo that, and my word would be authenticity, because I think the best stories are the ones that come from us. The Seinfeld and whatever, how many years, 10 years, I think proves that out pretty clearly, that it, it can be about nothing at all and everything at the same time.
Yes.
It's what is that truth story? And I think, Jacob Dylan, said it best when he says in one of his songs, I think he says, instead of pushing mountains, mine the ground that you're on. So I think it's about, looking for the stories within us that, we feel are relevant to our consumer and that we want to tell. Clearly, the brand needs to play a role in our authentic stories. Otherwise, we can't keep the lights on. And this is really, at the end of the day, you know, all about a Trojan horse. I use that as a metaphor, where we're delivering this beautiful story that's super engaging, but tucked inside of it is our brand. And our brand needs to be carried along in order to drive, you know, profitable and sustainable results. But I think it's that authenticity. I think that's where we should be looking for our stories in all of us.
I'll finish with impact. I've had the fortune of, you know, working with Jen, and we've run Jenna Bar Mom Life for many years, and now we're getting ready with At Home with Jennifer. But I've always married the distribution of the show with technology. And so I've always had a first row seat on the metrics that have impacted her audiences and the advertisers' customers. And so having seen and had my hands on, you know, those dials and those metrics, I've had the fortune of seeing the impact that her show has had on viewers. So I believe it. I've seen it firsthand. Where, you know, I don't know that you can win in this business of storytelling without having a firm grip on the technology. And so I've been really impressed with not only the power of video in general, but of storytelling and of Jen's programming and the impact it's had.
I would say one other thing before we close. I did see a question on there, how we're using data. And just really quickly, I think, you know, without searing insights, then we really don't have anything to talk about. We have to really understand our consumer. And I think using artificial intelligence to scrape conversations that have been having over a longitudinal period of time, to scrape what people are reading, to bubble up themes, and to create platforms within those themes and deeper understandings of those, more granular understandings of the platforms and themes that we want to go after, I think is hugely important. Pulling out really searing insights based on you know, big data, I think is very helpful in creating the story.
With that, I'm going to jump in here. We are at time, and I want to thank our panel so much: Matt Wasserloff, Jen Pate, Ken Krasnow, and Ty Braswell for hosting this session. Really enjoyed this. This is a wonderful story, and looking forward to sharing this with our viewers. If you're just missing, if you're just joining us or you missed a part of this stream, fear not. We'll post the full thing on YouTube tomorrow, and you can share it far and wide. Thanks so much, panel. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Really appreciate it.